Hello, everybody. I'm Freya Bottomley, Deputy Chief Executive for the National Counselling Society, and I'm joined today by the wonderful Anjula Mutanda. Hello. Meg is going to be talking today about the work that we're doing as a society around diversity and inclusivity. But as a membership organisation, we also wanted to hear from one of our members, and we're delighted that Anjula is that member as our Ambassador for Culture and Media. So welcome, Anjula. How are you?
I'm very well. That's a very big title to live up to.
You're doing it well.
I'll try my best.
You are. I'm sure a lot of people will already know a bit about your work from seeing you on their TV screens and your very extensive CV. But just in case anybody attending doesn't know about your work, I think the nice place to start would be just to hear from you, if you're happy to talk a bit about your career in counselling and psychotherapy.
Yeah, I mean, I started pretty young. I started as a sort of a volunteer counsellor when I was about 16, 17 years old. And this was for children who were sent to boarding school and were missing their parents, and then they were sent to summer camps. So I was one of those people who went along, and I was like keeping an eye out for them and helping them, you know, deal with homesickness and all that sort of thing. So I started pretty young, and then I went and did a psychology degree. Then I did a counselling psychotherapy master's, and it was at this point I became very interested in exploring diversity. Yeah. So my thesis was on cultural sensitivity versus cultural similarity of counsellor to client. And I went off to Heathrow Airport, where I did my research. I did quantitative and qualitative stuff there because it had such a diverse population. There were a lot of Asian workers, there were a lot of young people, older people. I worked with cabin crew, engineers, from all sort of echelons, and it gave me a really rich research area to look at. So I've always been interested in diversity because I am half Indian and half Ugandan, living in Britain. Yeah. So you know, it's kind of like I was born into the role. Does that make sense? I don't know. So I've always felt a little bit different. Okay. When I'm being, you know, much more negative about my identity, or I belong everywhere when I'm being positive about my identity. Yeah. And I think people who have that kind of diverse background, wherever it's from, whatever your mix, are always quite good at observing how to fit in, how to adapt, how to work with other people. So I think this is what led me down these particular paths. And then I was lucky enough to get employed with an EAP, Employee Assistance Programme, at British Airways. Then I had another job working in the city doing stress management consulting and training consultants in counselling. And so at this point, I'm like 22, 23. Wow. But it was an amazing experience. So I was always working with diverse people from different working backgrounds, age groups, ethnic groups. And I spent a long time doing that before I got anywhere near a TV screen.
The theme for this year is intersectionality, discrimination and social justice, a call for true equality in counselling and psychotherapy. Would you say that you've seen many changes in equality in counselling and psychotherapy over those years? Obviously, you've been doing it for a long time, and that was quite early on in your career that you're making those changes.
That's a very big question.
It is, sorry.
I can only do it from my point of view, because
course,
I've worked in lots of different environments. And I think I need to take a sidestep look at this. Two things. I think George Floyd's murder was a watershed moment, and alongside COVID, for us to all go, we need to stop and think here. I mean, we were forced to stop and think. We had a lot of time on our hands. Yeah. We saw world events, and we started to reflect on how we treat each other, how we view each other. What do we mean by equality? What do we mean by diversity? Are the organizations or systems that are created fair? And I think this has opened up a huge conversation in all kinds of fields, including our own. And I was just reading some stuff from the American Psychological Association, who have started this process of self-reflecting on yes, we do good research, but is our research biased? Do we have systemic racism without realizing it? Do we promote theories that are merely westernized European perspectives that do not belong or include, I should say, those who are non-white, from different minority groups, women, all those sorts of things? Do we actually talk to those people when we do our research? No, we don't. And when we think about our therapeutic theories and where they come from, are they inclusive? Maybe not. And then I started thinking about myself and how, coming to this country as a little girl, I have quite a rich cultural heritage, how much I had to adapt to fit in, to belong, and to survive. That's why we adapt.
Yeah.
But how much of my identity was pushed to the side. When I went into the counselling field, the theories that I learned about, the psychological strategies, all of that, where's that come from? Did I have to adapt to that in order to be successful, in order to get my letters after my name and all the bells and whistles? The environments that I worked in, they all influence how I operate. Who is the dominant culture there? What is the dominant cultural voice there? So if you start to think about it that way, you start to think about it quite differently. So have I just adapted and squashed part of who I really am? And therefore, does that mean my clients do that? Our clients do that when they come into the room and they encounter someone and they think, I need you to like me. I need you to feel that I'm a good person. And therefore, I won't let you fully into my full cultural palette, or I'm a bit afraid of you. So all of these questions are starting to emerge about, well, who are we? Who are we as a profession? If most of the research, or the dominant research that we all cite, that we all connect with, is coming from a Western European perspective, what's being left out? So are we focusing on part of the truth, not the whole truth? So do we need to be more inclusive when it comes to our research participants? Who decides who gets funding for doctorates? What kind of research? All of that stuff needs to be revisited, I think. So almost a root and branch self-reflection might need to be happening. And that's okay, because as counsellors, that's what we're expected to do when we start training. We're supposed to be open and vulnerable and look at our wounds and be honest about those wounds so that we can heal them, be aware of our traumas so that we don't carry them into the therapeutic encounter. But as a field of therapy, do we also need to be looking inside and saying, who are we as a counselling society? Are we really speaking the truth to all our clients? Are we really inclusive in how we view them? Do we have biases that we're unaware of? That we are all made up of the stories that we're told about ourselves, the environments that we grow up in, who our parents are, who we mix with. Have we developed cognitive biases in the way that we think about people, because they happen so fast you don't even realize? So when we see a certain client come into the room, do we immediately go into that script of they're this person, even though we're trying very hard to have that unconditional positive regard? So I think there's something very exciting at this critical point about self-reflection in how we train, who does the research, who do we cite, what our beliefs are about difference, because a lot of this is socially constructed. So there is that element to it, but also, are we missing out on being truly inclusive because of just the way that we've learned about therapy? these are big questions. I don't have the answers. I'm just thinking, wow, we need to really think bigger, broader, and bring on different voices in order to make our field the richest palette it possibly could be.
Wow, I couldn't have put it better myself.
Does that make sense?
I think it does make a lot of sense. I think it is, you're right, it's about individual counsellors looking at themselves and how they work, but also the profession as a whole and us as a society, as in the counselling society, and also I think training providers as well, as you said about the trainees, as that's when you come in and you should be looking at yourself, but they need to be allowed to do that, and it needs to be a safe space to support people to look at themselves and work that out as well. So yeah, I agree, there's a lot to be done, and I think having your voice is invaluable. Got any other ideas of things that you would like the profession to do, or for us as your membership organisation to do?
Again, for me, there's a bigger question at play here, which is we've all kind of been trained in these theoretical styles. I think last time I looked, it was about 481 different types of therapies.
Okay.
And what we need to look at within that is how is that serving us well? Is that speaking to different client groups? If it is, great. How can we help one another with the different therapies that we use? But are we looking at this primarily from a Western perspective? And therefore, as a result of that, are we limiting what we do with people who have a different perspective to bring to the table? So that, to me, that's where my head is at the moment, thinking about that. The way everything is structured around training, we need some structure, of course we do, otherwise we'd be all over the place, it'd be chaotic. But we also need as individuals to flourish as who we are. And that people flourishing in different ways, speaking different therapeutic languages, coming from different backgrounds, need a seat at the table to say, actually, this is what's helpful in this community, or this is what's helpful in that community, and this is the language that we speak here, and it's effective. So rather than having that this is normal according to a Western agenda, and everything else that doesn't quite fit isn't working.
So just trying to bring all those languages together somehow.
And again, like you said there, just going back to the richness of our counsellors. They are the richest resource we have. They are the best people doing the most noble work and putting their best foot forward. So we ask them for that knowledge and what they feel they need in order to grow. But I think also for me, I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about maybe revisiting how we do research, who does the research, who gets the funding for the research. Let's all become a lot more curious about how we train, what we're learning, what we're promoting, what we're saying, who we are and who we want to be.
I like that. Let's be more curious, all of us. I think that's a really good message to end on as well. And I really appreciate your honesty as well with sharing things with us. So
no, it's my pleasure. I'd be excited to hear what other counsellors have to say, because as I say, they're our richest resource.
And the actions that I think we as an organisation need to make as well, we will be held accountable. So thank you for all your input.